I'm Julianne Puente, head of school at Albuquerque Academy in New Mexico. The Academy is a leader in the world of independent schools. We honor our past while embracing the future of education. Even though I've been going to school in one shape or form for almost my entire life, I still learn something new every day, and I use that knowledge to tackle the challenges that should interest anyone who has a stake in the future we can't fully imagine. Thanks for joining me to hear about what I learned in school. Hello everyone, I'm Julianne Puente. This year marks 70 years since Albuquerque Academy opened in 1955. From its humble beginnings as a small independent school to the vibrant community it has become today, the Academy has stood as a place of learning, growth, and transformation for generations of students. Over this season of What I Learned in School, we'll reflect on that legacy, looking back at the visionaries who built the foundation, the alumni who have carried the Academy spirit into the world, and the teachers and students who continue to shape its future. So join us as we celebrate 7 decades of excellence, resilience, and discovery here at Albuquerque Academy. Welcome to Season 2 of our podcast, and welcome to the 70th anniversary celebration. Today I'm joined by 2 very special guests, former Academy heads of school, Andy Watson and Don Smith. Thank you both very much for being here, and welcome back to the Academy.
Thank you.
Great to see you, Julianne. Shivers when I stepped on campus.
Well, I have so many questions to ask you. Why don't we just start about, how did you hear about the Academy and how did you land here? Because neither one of you are New Mexicans.
No.
So how did you get here? You came here first,
Yeah.
I will say, I think before I was born.
Probably.
I'm just having fun with you. But go ahead.
76.
Yeah. Oh, I was 73.
Okay.
Oh, we're good.
So I made it. I was teaching in Florida, and I had taught for 2 years and went back to University of Florida and got my graduate degree and came back. And I decided, number one, I wanted to keep teaching, and number two, if I was going to work that hard to get my graduate degree, I was not going to stay teaching in that school.
Right.
And it was the winter of 75, 76, and that was the year. This is going to be a long-winded answer. You asked.
Give me the answer. We're here to have some fun.
The space program had just come to an end, and the market was flooded with math and physics PhDs, all trying to get teaching jobs. I wrote to 70 schools in New England. I got one response. And I ended up going to NAIS in Boston. I was staying, my parents lived in Rhode Island, so I stayed with them and took the bus back and forth. And remember that, but I don't know if they still do it this way. There was that big board and people would put 3x5 cards.
Now it's a little bit different, but it's still in Boston, and I did it by train.
Yeah.
But yeah. Yeah.
And I put up a little 3x5 card, math teacher, wrestling coach, soccer, whatever. And I got a note from Brett Harper saying, if you're interested in talking to me about a school in New Mexico. And I thought, it's not Florida. And one thing led to another. And in those days, they didn't fly us out. So it was sight unseen.
Right.
I had met with Brud, talked to Gene Gardenhire, the chair of the department, for a couple of times, and then a week later they offered me the job, and I went, sure.
And you came out.
And then the day I drove my car through Terrace Canyon on KOB, I heard them announce the first case of this season's first plague case, and I went, what have I done?
Right. And what about you, Andy? How did you hear about the Academy?
Well, I didn't have the what have I done thing. I was so excited to get here. Funny you should say, I was just about done with my PhD in mathematics, and it was glutted. I would never have a long get tenure because there's too many people.
Yep.
So I went to work at a public school in Dayton, Ohio for a couple of years, and by a strange coincidence, I ended up at a boarding school in Colorado Springs called Fountain Valley School. 2 years in, age 28, it's 1983, and a friend of mine who's in Albuquerque says, come on down, there's a basketball tournament down here. And I came down and I saw the game in the pit between NC State and Houston, and it was unbelievable. So that was my first Albuquerque.
The finals?
I saw the game. I was there, Valvano, the whole thing. It was amazing. So I had a fond feeling about the West, a fond feeling about Albuquerque. Landed at Potomac School in McLean, Virginia, and was there for 10 years. And people were starting to call me and asking whether I'd like to apply for headships, and I was looking at a few. And I saw a list someplace on the computer, and it's Albuquerque Academy. I said, oh, man. And Carol was walking around the corner. I said, Albuquerque Academy is looking for head of school. And she goes, and I said, I'll never get that job. That school is too important and too big and too excellent. I'd have to start someplace else. She goes, Andy, you'll get that job. Way to go, Carol. Jim Wickenden was running the search. He was someone I'd known for a while, and it went well. You were here. You witnessed me interviewing.
I was on the committee.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You could probably tell some stories. So was wonderful John Truitt.
Yes.
And a great bunch of folks.
Yeah. Nancy Van Deventer
Yes.
ran it, I think.
So getting back to the West, although I did pick up a little bit, and maybe you did too, Julianne, when I was applying. Well, that guy's coming from Washington. He won't get it about the West. I said, I was seeking the West. I love the West. And oh, by the way, 5 years out now, the seniors of the last class I worked with in 6th grade, then they'll be gone, sadly. And I'm staying in Albuquerque.
Right.
And so I like it out here a lot.
Right. Well, for me, I've told the story a couple of times, but the first time I heard about Albuquerque Academy was from Jerry Murphy, who just passed away. He was my math teacher at Hackley. And it's great, I mean, that he taught Christine and he's taught Liz and all the people I work with today. But I was trying to figure out what I would take as a senior, even though I was a freshman. I was a planner even then. And I spoke to him in the hallway and I said, Mr. Murphy, where are you going? And he said, Albuquerque, New Mexico, to Albuquerque Academy. And I said, my uncle lives in Albuquerque. Well, I hadn't even met at that point. And that was my first time hearing of the Academy. And the Academy was always held in like really high regard at Hackley because of Jerry. And many of them had traveled out here to visit him. So it had always kind of been in the water for me. But then with our friend John Austin, when I was out at King's, he knew Andy, and we were building a school from scratch, and we looked, to about 6 or 7 schools we really admired, and the Academy was one. And I actually was on the website trying to, I'll say, be honest, steal information about like an ex-ed program, and I saw the head of school posting, and I went into John Austin, and a similar kind of thing, but reversed, I will say. I'm like, John, the head of, the position at the Academy is open. He's like, Julianne, that's big time. And I said, John, I'm big time. So, but it was pretty smooth sailing. It sounds that way for you. Like it was just kind of meant to be, and then we landed here. I will say that when I came to interview, I landed, it was at night. I'd taken about 24 hours to get here. And I go to check in and I said, where is the city? Because, I'd never been to Albuquerque. You always see the little skyline that they show you and you think it's like, my reference is Manhattan.
Yeah.
So, they're like, it's over there, but the mountains will be there when you wake up. So with you, Andy, you were also a young dad at the time that you got here,
yes,
right?
Madeline was a 6th grader and my twins were 4th graders that year.
And so what was that transition like coming from Potomac, Potomac School out to the Academy, moving your family, and what are your memories of that early time?
Well, I'll tell you that my transition to Potomac, Madeline was 1.5 and Carol was pregnant with the twins. And that was a very busy year. But it bought me a very long honeymoon period at that school because everybody pitied me with everything that was going on in my life.
I had COVID.
Yeah, exactly. I hope people pitied you running through that.
I
only got 3 months of it and you had 2 years. But no, it was great. I'll never forget Judy Hudenko coming by to tell me that Madeline did fine in her application, and that a roadrunner had run across the path in front of them, and she said, "That's a good omen, in New Mexico if a roadrunner runs by." And Madeline got her class was extraordinary. Rachel Kolb, who's spoken at graduation, who has a book signing very soon. Many others. Taylor Wilson, who learned sign language in order to be Rachel's friend. It was an amazing set of young women that Malin got to hang out with. Noreen. Yeah, let's not forget Noreen. Many others. Emily. There's just so many names I could give you. And so being able to grow up with those children in that class, same thing for my twins. The excellence of the school and the fact that they've learned things and be able to do things and be creative and communicate is all there. And the friends I got to make here, and all the children. This place, I should have answered this the first time. I knew of the Academy's excellence, and all the schools I worked at were excellent. But I have never seen a school with so much opportunity for children in terms of getting them here from every zip code in the city and giving them such a broad program. And so that's part of the reasons I came, but my daughters, all three, got to experience it.
Yeah, one of the things that it continues to strike me, but struck me when I got here, that the kids have a kind of humility to them that I had not experienced at my previous schools. I love the kids at my previous school. This is not about that. But I find the kids to be grateful. They say thank you at the end of class all of the time.
I got thanked on the way in here today.
Yeah,
I held the door for some kids.
Right. They're just kind. And yes, they're teenagers and they do teenage things. But I love that there isn't the edge to them that I have found in New York or Boston or in other D.C. And they don't take it for granted. I was really struck by that when I got here, and made me fall in love with the school even deeper than I had been on that. When they put the gates up around the school.
Oh gosh!
I know you weren't head then, but you certainly remember it.
Well, so I spent 5 years we had different names and different titles, but as the assistant dean in charge of the 11th and 12th grade. So
schools love titles.
Oh yes,
and we like to make them different all the time.
What is now Brown Hall and then was South. And I distinctly remember one day I had to walk out behind where the music building is now and stop a guy who was target shooting. Now, you think about that now. Some guy on a campus with a rifle.
Yeah, right.
And I had to walk out, excuse me, sir, what did I know? And he's target shooting. He's putting up cans on a stone. And I said, do you know this is a school? We used to have wrecked cars, trash heaps. And I'm trying to figure out when that happened. Late 80s, early 90s.
I think it was when Hoffmantown was built.
Or becoming built. Yeah, you're right,
like
Julianne.
82, 83.
Yeah, when that was another thing.
Yeah.
But Bob Avenette decided we were going to enclose the campus.
Right.
And, my God, the neighborhood went wild.
Right.
Well, and you may have both had this experience. So we fenced the campus. We've got signs everywhere. Don't let your dogs run loose, blah, 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 blah.
It still happens.
Some guy calls me when I was head and said, your coyotes attacked my dog.
Dave Kim used AI to write a whole song about Julianne's tumbleweeds.
Tumbleweeds.
Yeah. Well, for me, it was painting the gates, just simply painting them red.
Oh, gosh.
That was gate, as opposed to logo gate. When we were like
tree gate too, probably.
Oh, I had tree gate,
I heard you
and
tell me about that.
now everyone somebody actually said, he wrote me like an idiot. You're going to cut down all of the trees, and I'm like, I am not an idiot, and I am not cutting down all of the trees. But now we actually planted more trees than we took down.
I noticed those, and the problem with trees is it takes a little while. The best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago.
Well, have you met an alum who hasn't planted the trees on the path?
Oh, listen, for years, Arbor Day. That was I can't tell you how many, and it was guys because they did it in 8th grade when the school was still not fully co-ed. I can't tell you how many guys out of the years in the 80s would come up to me and go, "That's my tree. Mm-hmm. That's my tree."
Yeah. Well, everyone claims that they have planted the trees. No one likes to talk about that they are Eastern cottonwoods and not indigenous to this part of the country, and therefore their root systems are different. So, anyway, when the tree guy calls you and says you need to get out here right now, that as a head of school, you're like, what? So I go out with Bruce Orem and our tree guy, because I wanted like the arborist of New Mexico. I wanted all the credibility, right? He said, you need to take down this tree right now. And I'm like, I am not taking down any trees that are going to have a stump, because, right, that's like evidence that you took down the tree. So he said, fine. And he took his foot and put it right through the trunk of the tree. And I'm like, it'll be down this weekend. And that was the first tree we took down. But, we have a line item now just for tree maintenance.
Absolutely.
Right? What are some traditions that you remember fondly from the academy, your time?
Okay, so now when I first came here, if a teacher walked in the room, students would stand, which really threw me for a loop at first. Male teachers were supposed to wear jackets, which I did not, because I sweat like the dickens and I'm very uncomfortable, and I didn't. Nobody ever called me on it. When we first started to admit girls, they came in as ninth graders, and there would be 60 roughly, plus or minus, boys coming up from the middle school, and they'd enroll 30 girls in the class. And when you looked out on the quad, you'd see the girls hung together in a pack, and the boys were like wolves circling the pack and nipping at them. And watching those dynamics. As a math teacher, most of my classes were very segregated, either almost all boys or almost all girls. For the first, until the end of the 80s. And then once the girls caught up, it was no longer like that.
Right.
Well, my favorite traditions, some of them we established as a team. First off, after being in D.C. and seeing graduation speeches by famous people every year, who came in and give their boo, 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 and no passion, just, well, but that's Colin Powell or somebody. So we started having our alums give speeches at graduation. And they would because they love the place, they'd put their heart and soul into it. David Eagleman, Joshua Ramo. I could go down Noreen. I could just go down the list of the great graduation speeches.
Yeah.
I think the walking up to the first day of school, hand in hand with the sixth graders.
Which was Andy's idea. That was his baby.
I love it. And then I am very fond of our alma mater. Hovey Corbin deserves credit. Sean Garris deserves credit for putting that in place. But Don and beloved Stephanie and all the friends on the administration team, Andy, an alma mater, come on. They thought I was trying to Ohio-fy Albuquerque. And yet I saw tears in the eyes of seniors the first years we had it.
Yeah.
And so I kind of said, see?
Well, one of the great traditions that started, and I think it was Bob Bovinette in the late 80s, he decided the faculty was going to march into graduation. And when I first came, graduation was held in Sims. You had to have a ticket, and faculty were not allowed. Faculty were not invited because there wasn't enough room. And so all of a sudden, Bob decided we were going to do a tent, we were going to do this outside, and we were going to put on the dog. And people grumbled and moaned, and I think to this day, that's one of the most fabulous things we do every year, is have the faculty march the seniors in. I just think that brings chills to me every time.
Yeah, actually, now that I think about it, I loved The Sims. I felt like they were my grandparents.
Yeah.
I just loved spending time with them. and they'd always sit in those 2 seats in the back on the right.
Right.
They
And
still
I
do.
don't know, I don't. Good, because we kind of memorialized that's where a Sims family member gets to sit.
Yep.
And I'd tell the first 2 seniors in line to stop and shake their hand and give them a hug or something, and that was very special.
Yeah.
You know, and part of, you know, is of schools is to also take traditions and can continue to allow them to evolve, right?
Yes.
And I was actually talking with Taryn Batches. She can think of 5 different locations commencement have taken place on the campus in her time. So, you know, when I'm told, you know, graduation has only been here, that's actually not true.
No,
but
no.
it's what you remember. But like convocation, I think is such a beautiful ceremony, and we've expanded it. So now, like that morning, we have a breakfast for all the 6th graders and their parents, and all of the 12th graders and their parents,
nice.
and we have it outside, so everybody can come. And I think this year we had 2,200 or 2,500 people attend convocation. Yeah. We did not anticipate that number of people. Parking wasn't an issue, but we weren't prepared in that way that it was actually, there were more people at convocation than graduation. It's also because the whole school was there. But really, like, you know, I love the you know, the march in, and of course I don't know any different. I've only marched in as a faculty member, but to think that at one time that didn't happen.
Oh no.
Oh my gosh.
Well, I never saw graduation until
That's not even funny.
I
That's
know.
just really
I
bad.
know.
in fact, was it 83, maybe 84? It was Nancy Parker's class. Leslie, I can't remember Leslie's last, Stark. We did it in the quad. We did graduation in the quad.
Right. There were multiple locations for
And
this.
when you looked out there, everybody was huddled under the trees because it was so
sunny.
Hot.
Oh my God, it was hot.
Right.
And I think that was the only time we did it in the quad. And the next year, I think that was the next year. My dates are all screwy in there, but it was the next year. Bob, I think, said we're going to put up a tent so you don't have to bake.
Yeah.
We've kept some tent company in business for the last
Oh my
several
God.
years.
You
Yes,
know,
yes,
we
we
actually
did.
talked about buying the tent. You want to
Right.
know what the major problem is? Storing it.
Storage, yeah.
Sure.
So, which is like the bane of my existence here in that way. But yeah, and that tent is not inexpensive.
Right. Correct.
You know, talking about old things and new things and changes and traditions. I haven't been around a whole lot. I've been working hard, and but I heard of a brilliant thing you did, Julianne, when you had your whatever it was called, cleanup day, and everybody cleared out all the
yeah, we
closets,
did.
and you found all the stuff, the skeletons in the closet,
Literally.
Yeah.
Well, then I gave a commencement address about junk. Somebody is like, "Where is she going with this?" But it all came together very nicely at the end. But
I can only imagine what the tonnage was.
I
day.
had all the stats. I mean, it was over 14,000 pounds of books. And then I mean, we did electronics bins. We did just straight garbage bins. I mean, it is unreal what was found. So let's talk a little bit about how the Academy has changed a bit. It would make sense to start with you, Smitty, and how you feel the school's evolved, and then Andy during your tenure, and I'm happy to chime in at the end.
Well, so when I first came, there might have been 700 kids.
You're 1,183 today.
Exactly. All and in those days, the little theater was configured differently, and it was in the thirds.
Okay.
The entire faculty could fit into 1/3. And there was a much earlier iteration of the fountain in the quad, and faculty would hang out there. And for a number of years, I could name every student who walked by, and they knew who I was. It was just that small. It was just that intimate. There was one student I taught 3 different times.
Wow.
And it was so unfair to the girls. And I understand why the board did it the way they did it, and they probably didn't have much choice. But to bring the girls in at ninth graders, they were almost always behind in math and almost always behind in Spanish, almost always. And it was so unfair. And as that, in order to correct that, we had to grow the faculty. We had to grow the student body. We had to. And it became a much more normal place when we went fully co-ed. Much more normal. The boys were much better behaved in some ways.
Yeah.
When the girls would come in as ninth graders, and I taught for a number of years. I taught eighth graders in what is now McKinnon Hall, and so I'm teaching the boys I'm doing whatever I'm doing. And if a girl walked down the corridor, or if a girl walked past the windows outside, that was it. I lost them. I could have been standing on my head. They wouldn't have paid me any attention at all. And that normalized, thankfully, when the girls coming in. So we lost stuff because we got bigger, but we had to get bigger. We had to. And it's a much more real place than when I came. It was pretty much the rich white kids school up on the hill. It really was, and it certainly isn't any longer. Right? It wasn't starting by the early '90s. It wasn't.
Yeah. How about for you, Andy?
Well, it's interesting. Some of those themes, Smitty. The size was one. It was the mid 900s when I arrived, and getting close to maybe a little over 1,100 when I left. So that's a change, and it's just more opportunity for students. Even though some people say let's not get any bigger, but it's just more opportunity for students. But the fact that it was, in a lot of my schools, were on the adult side a male-dominated spot, and to watch the emerging women leaders of this school, that was a big thing during my time. That's one. Another one was it's a exclusive for white kids school. It was a rich. It was the feeling, I think, when I first came, and so opening the new programs, making multicultural honors from 60 to 80 to 100, community academy, community builders, getting people on campus for a lot of events. I just wanted people to see the excellence and the goodness of the place and make it feel welcoming to people, as opposed to, I got to stay away, that place is too scary. So I think that changed a little bit over time. So I just think, and then frankly, the mission. Maybe the mission changed from when you first got here, but the mission really felt pure all the way through, about the opportunity, the outdoors, the Southwest, the excellence, the garden, which I'm very, very fond of. I think the mission didn't change, but it did change who got served, both from your time and even over my time, who got served at the school.
Yeah. It's, when you become head of school, they often ask you, do you want to change the mission? And when that came to me, the question, I was like, I came here because of the mission. Why would I even touch that?
Exactly.
So are there any stories that you want to share, or memories, or?
Careful, Smitty.
I know.
Do they still do senior prank?
Not really.
Okay.
I mean, they've done a little bit, but
so
our kids are pretty busy. And the one thing I did do was, when they come back from senior projects, we have business leaders who are attached to the academy speak to the class in the morning. They present their projects all day to the school. Then we have a senior parent faculty dinner, and then they do it they present their projects to their parents. So they're kind of back and busy, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So it
keeps them occupied.
And they generally go off right before spring break. So I'm,
They used to, when I was the dean in charge, I can't remember my title, dean in charge of the 11th and 12th grade, and the senior class sponsor for 5 years. And I knew a prank was coming, but they wouldn't tell me what it was. And we came out there one day, and the kids had driven around town and taken all these real estate signs, and they were everywhere. on campus. And I had a pretty good idea of who was behind it.
Right.
And I just said, okay, it's very funny. They go back. And by and large, they did.
I want to know what my favorite prank here was pulled by John Truitt. My favorite ever. I've actually written my friends from Hackley and said, why didn't we do this? When he auctioned off his paycheck.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that was even... So John was here before I got here.
God, that is
and then
the
he left,
best.
and then he came back, and people were still telling John Truitt stories.
That is the best.
I finally met the guy, and he...
Right.
Well, perfect segue. Here's one for me. My first year, John Truitt is a true genius.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and he was on your committee.
Yes, he was on the search committee, and he we didn't have a marching band. We had a band, but and Curtis Mayfield had a song when I was in high school, Superfly. Mm-hmm. You guys know Superfly?
Yes.
Oh, you guys are too young, but you do. Okay. So Superfly. So he does a tribute to Superfly at the halftime show because he had a student who could play music on his zipper. Mm-hmm. So
I remember standing and watching that and going, John?
He's told me this story, and I think my face said it all. Like, you did what?
Yeah, and he kept around. He really thought I was going to fire him, and I love him so much. And it was hilarious. People loved it.
Oh.
Not a problem.
There are a million John Truitt stories.
Yeah.
Many of them are true.
Yeah. Well, then there was the graduation speech where Brian Weiss told the story of going to the bathroom in Bear Canyon. It was epic, but it wasn't really suitable for grandparents.
Right.
But then after the speech, all these grandparents came up to me. It's the best graduation speech I ever heard.
So funny.
But two more, and one's musical and one's sort of like our national connections. Marilyn Bernard was an extraordinary leader of our music program here for many years, an opera singer from New Orleans who was just amazing. But she was had a classical bent. And I love a cappella music, and I came from a tradition of a cappella music. Maybe you did too at Hackley. And so I had to do underground work with Diane Short to get a cappella music going on campus. Mm-hmm. So that was a fun thing to do. But then this is a music one too, sort of. We were very fortunate. The Harvard Principal Center Advisory Board came to have an annual meeting here. And we did it big. They were meeting the governor, and we just were doing all sorts of things. But at the reception we had, one of the nights, we were doing Les Mis as our musical that year. And the kids who were the leads of the show came in and started singing, and they sang so beautifully. And this was half public school superintendents, half heads of school, and there were tears raining on the face of some of these other educators saying, how can this be going on in Albuquerque, New Mexico? Yeah. And it touched me, too. I'm still friends with the woman who runs that board, and she still talks about the shock of the people who came for that visit.
Let's just have like two more questions here. More on the serious, or three more questions. How is that? What are some of the greatest myths, do you think, that exist about the Academy?
You had to be a genius to be a student here.
Yeah. And it is amazing to me that persists here. And the constant, the kids aren't the same. And I'm like, you're right. The kids are not the same. Mm-mm. They're better. But this idea, the school's population has changed.
Yes.
You talked about adding girls. You talked about the diversity of that. I would also say the real economic diversity. Correct. Here. I even think it's more than it had been. And in that way, of course, that mosaic of the Academy is going to change the whole feel.
And it should.
Yeah.
It should change. It absolutely should.
Yeah.
You've hit main ones, and the idea of you have to be super talented to get in, the idea the place is exclusive. One of the things that's true that I wish it wasn't a myth, and one of the things we do that's great for the world, but not so great for New Mexico, is our kids get such opportunities here and such opportunities beyond here that many of them leave New Mexico.
Yeah, half of our alums.
Yeah, but here's the point about the folks leaving, and the reason I'm not leaving. This is such a wonderful place in all ways, but New Mexico does struggle in some ways, as we all know. And not all of our alums who are very successful all over the world are thinking about moving back to Albuquerque. But if they can and make a difference here, that'd be great. But if they can't move back, but they can give another child a chance at the school through their philanthropy and the success they've had, I think that'd be a pretty nice cycle of life for our graduates.
I do think one of the things that did not change over the years, and it was a bit of a shock to me when I first came here, was as a teacher, the relationships we formed with the students. And we were expected to have relationships, positive, interactive, come in and shoot the breeze. I've got a free period. Can I talk to you about something? It was, and I hope that continues, because that to me was what kept me here for 41 years.
I will say that the support of the school keeps growing, and I know you're doing a great job with that, Julianne. But when I first came, I'll never forget my first month, I talked to some of the folks who were in charge of getting philanthropy to come back to the school. And I said, give me a list of sort of the top 10 folks you're talking to about supporting the school. Crickets. There wasn't a list of 10 people who supported the school. There was no philanthropy at the school, except for one-offs. Yep. And so I think building that up over the years has been important.
Yeah.
Yes.
What do you think, as lifelong educators, both of you, are really the pressing issues facing schools, both locally, the academy locally and nationally?
Continuing to make them relevant. A student says, "Why do I have to go to class? I can learn all of this off of Khan Academy or YouTube."
It's funny. I just wrote an article that was sent out yesterday. Why we should go to school?
Yeah.
Mine was really about attendance, but yes, the same thing. But it does touch on that.
But and the fact that it's not just about learning the quadratic formula or the fundamental theorem or whatever it is. It's how you relate and engage to other people, how you can have healthy conflict,
right?
Which is a concept. How you can pull together as a community.
Yep.
Those things, I think those are the challenges that schools are going to be facing for the next 20 years.
Well, the easy answer for me is, who knows? And I think about it quite a bit, is artificial intelligence and how that's going to play out.
Yep.
Who knows how the devaluing of education that's taking place right now, the devaluing of science, the devaluing of experts, it's sort of like you're better off to be a know-nothing than to know things. And the fact that a lot of kids are aren't learning to know what's nonsense and what's real, and aren't learning enough about the history in the past. And those institutions who still have a strong liberal arts education, and they still exist, but they're under siege, it feels like to me. And so maintaining a strong liberal arts education. And I have to say, all through my career, if you don't teach the kids this, they'll never be successful. Every time I was told that by a parent or a board member, they were wrong, because the pace of change is so rapid that that it's just not true. You've got to teach people to think and to read and to communicate and be creative. And that always works, no matter what changes in society. But there are fewer and fewer institutions, I think, that are doing that.
Well, the whole idea of liberal arts, which for some population in this country is going to be a dirty word, but that is the ideal here. Kids have to be well-rounded. They don't have a choice. They have to take these classes.
Right.
Well, they don't even understand. Some folks don't understand the difference between liberal arts and the word liberal and conservative.
Right, exactly.
It's a different concept.
Yep.
Right. I, as somebody who's in the classroom, and how we are engaging with AI, I don't find our kids willing to forego their learning and just hand it off. I do think they get stuck sometimes. You want to get something done, but at the core, if the assignments are good and you ask questions and you scaffold it correctly, they will come in prepared. And I mean, my class today had a discussion on a statue, Shiva Nataraja, that I would put up against any college class. The depth of what they talked about, the way that they interacted with each other, bringing in sources, asking questions, yes, and I disagree, what about this, outside sources. AI didn't do that. They could have used AI as they could an internet or a book or talking to someone to prepare, but they were able to synthesize it and really engage actively, and something that's pretty difficult. And I think when we're clear with kids and explain the why, they live up to that. And I think we've taken a pretty moderate road on this, and it's about what I didn't like and what was happening. It was all about academic integrity, and so I think we've been able to move through that a little bit, and now it's about, how do you learn how to write, and moving some of that back into the classroom, and where I think a lot of that had gone home. Now it's kind of back. So what's old is new again.
That's true. Interesting that COVID was ending as AI was coming in. And
how everybody wanted to get into school, and now everybody's absent.
Yeah.
Right? So last kind of question here. What thoughts, advice, hopes, maybe might be a better word there, do you have for the Academy? I mean, you talked a little bit about it with philanthropy, and as a sort of like call to action for our community. But, what are your hopes for the Academy like 20, 30, 50 years from now?
It goes back to something I said earlier. No matter what the school looks like, it's still based, the heart of the school is still the engagement of the kids and the faculty.
Relationships.
Yeah. To me, that's what this school will always stand for.
It's hard to beat that. I'd say think about the entire community of the Academy, from the oldest living graduate to the sixth graders I saw on the way up here today. And what can they do for the world? What can they do for New Mexico with what they're given here? And can they have enough understanding of how uncommon something like this is, and how it's their responsibility that the next generation, that the next generation gets to have a similar opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's similar to both of you, in that there's a kind of elasticity that it can adapt to what the world around it, but that it's really relationship based.
Yes.
And thinking on, critical thinking and written and oral expression. And that this is a place where you can engage in different ideas and try different things. That, I have such belief, I know that you share this with me, in athletics and in the arts, but in science and in robotics and in speech and debate and in all of those areas, they're not even extensions of the classrooms. They are classrooms in their own rights, right? That you need other schools to do that too. I mean, that is part of this. I think when they think of the Academy as a standalone institution, or that we're this school on the hill, so much of who we are is interacting with other schools. You need that for a tournament. You need that. We have our game under the lights coming out, or, when our kids are on mock trial or Model UN. Like, you cannot do this alone.
No.
I've worked with a couple gifted schools, and some of what I thought were struggling with is they define giftedness as mathematical and literacy talents. Athletes are gifted, artists are gifted, performers are gifted. I bet you even have gifted pickleball players now that you've opened up the new pickleball complex.
We sure do.
Because once, in fact, I might walk up there. I haven't seen it yet. I might walk up there before I leave. So broadening the definition of what a human being is from not just mathematical and literate to broader things, I think is an important thing the Academy does.
Anything else you want to add? Comments?
Well, I would add, I'm really grateful for your work at the Academy, Julianne.
Thank you.
It's a challenge. You've got so much energy. I see the new ideas. I give you space because I don't want to be in your hair. But I just, and now that I have a little more time, because I'm kind of really retired, I'm looking at the website more, and I'm getting fed. Man, the communication department is killing it. I'm getting fed so many things, and I'm liking some of them. I like that Bregman and Batchus and Badger
that
in
was
Red
great?
Sox Stadium.
Great photo.
How could you not like that? Actually, I commented on that one. So maybe I'll do a little bit more of that, and I hope nobody thinks I'm the old guy
Hey, we
lurking.
count all the comments, we count all the likes, we count, you name it. We're all, metrics driven.
Very good.
So, so that picture when they went down to New York, this is last week, right? Or a little bit?
Must have been, yeah.
So she sent me that picture, and I'm like, that picture needs to be on Instagram and do it. So I sent it, and we did. It was just great. And Taryn texted Alex and said, they're playing the Yankees. The Boston happened to be playing the Yanks, and they got field passes. So they got to see batting practice and go. I was like, oh my gosh, I've been in Yankee Stadium so many times, never been on the field.
No.
How exciting was that?
I remember thinking that Taryn must be in hog heaven down there in the field.
Yeah, and I was, Max Preps, they
I
have
saw
some
that.
calculation of state championships. We were 13th in the country.
Wow.
13th.
Yeah.
I'm like, I actually had to say this several times. I'm like, there are 40,000 schools. We were 13. I mean, this is unbelievable.
Yeah. And ever since I've been here,
It's been that.
we've taken
But I
almost for granted that,
I know.
the kids are going to do well. If you've got smart kids and reasonable coaches,
Right.
and the kids listen to the coaches, what more can you ask for?
And they set a record last year, right? 10
Yeah.
is the
10.
most
10
ever.
state-
Yeah, 10.
I have
Yeah.
a vague memory of 9 one year, but 10.
Yeah, Taryn said that the Academy held it before. It was with 9.
Yeah.
La Cueva, I think, is next with 5.
Yeah.
So the fact that we've
Well-
won 8, 9, last year 10.
There-
And by the way, we were in it for for basketball. Like we got knocked out of volleyball easily. Like they could have advanced baseball, but it's exciting. Exciting. And then the other thing that I find gets overlooked here, I don't understand, are the arts. Our kids are phenomenal. The shows they put on, the music, guitar, and they're like, the Academy is the sports school, and I'm like, what? I'm like, are you kidding me? And so that really makes my back straight on some of that, and how proud I am of it. First of all, the facility is one of the best.
Mm-hmm.
But what Richard has done, all of those guys, are just phenomenal. Smitty, Andy, I want to thank you so much for coming back, for staying engaged, for always being supportive of me and of the Academy. And, so many schools, the heads of schools don't talk. They have their own time and they, push everybody else away. But that has not been what we have done. So I'm just grateful for both of you, and it was great to talk a little bit about our history.
It is flattering to be invited back.
And fun.
All right, thank you. It's time for the teacher feature, when you get to meet one of the fantastic faculty members at the Academy. During this season of What I've Learned in School, as we celebrate this school's 70th anniversary, all of the teachers you'll meet are also Academy alumni. Bob, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I am here with Bob Anderson, class of 1986. Bob has many, many connections to the Academy. You've met your wife here.
That is correct, yes.
Your 2 daughters have graduated from here.
Also true story.
And of course, you and Jennifer also graduated. Jennifer's brother's kids graduated from here. Your sister-in-law also works here. The Andersons go deep. Andersons and Petersons go deep into the Academy. I'd love just to hear a little bit about your story. Like, where did you grow up? How did you find the Academy? And what was your time like here as a student?
Every student here at the Academy has a unique story, and that's what I love about all these students. My unique story is unique for different reasons, perhaps. So I actually grew up back east in New Jersey and Pennsylvania, and my folks moved out here to Albuquerque the summer before my senior year in high school.
That is tough.
It was tough, but in all honesty, part of the reason that I was successful here was the Academy community. So when my folks moved out, we looked at all the public high schools here, and at some point, someone asked my parents, "Who at the academy are you talking to?" And of course, they didn't know anything about the academy. My previous history was in big public high schools.
Right.
And so they met up with some folks here at the academy. I interviewed here. And interestingly, one of the things that my mom always did when she was talking to the various schools was to have a list of all of my fastest swim times with her and accessible. And she hauled that out, and at the time it was pretty clear that I could be an asset to the team here.
Nice.
And so someone called up Dave Barney and said, "Hey, Dave, you might want to take a look at this."
Uh-huh.
And so I came in as a senior, actually one of two new seniors in that year, in the graduating class of 1986. And I've loved it. It made such an impact on me. And it was one of those things, I didn't realize it until probably a few years after I graduated, that the academy was so different and so much better than my public high school. And that's part of the reason I came back, is I wanted to give back to the community that had helped me out so much.
Well, do you have any memories, or I'm sure you do, but what the academy was like in 1985 and 1986?
It was different in some ways,
Yeah.
and it was the same in some ways.
Right.
Different, first and foremost, from the standpoint that most of the campus didn't exist when I was here.
So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the natatorium, the science building, the library, the music building, none of those existed when I was here. I swam in the pool that is now underneath the weight room. It was designed as a 5-lane pool, squashed into 6 lanes. And so you're always hitting the lane lines during practice. We didn't have starting blocks. We had a giant bulkhead, tile-covered bulkhead at the shallow end of the pool, no less,
Right.
that we dove off of, that we started from. So that was a big difference. The path wasn't. It was a road.
Right.
The entrance, there was only one, and it was off of Wyoming. And that's how we came into campus. That's how we left campus. So that's how physically it's different in a lot of ways now than it was back in my day. What's the same is the community that we have here. And in all honesty, the fact that the adults on campus truly care about the success of the students here. That was an eye-opening experience for me when I was here, coming from a big public high school where, to be honest, that really wasn't the case. And being ingrained in the academy here, the sense of community, I had that when I came in here. I joined the swim team and was immediately part of that group and accepted for who I was, to be a part of the community, even though I was joining a bunch of lifers, people who had been here for their entire career.
Right.
And I was the new kid on the block, but that was fine. I fit right in. That sense of community I know still exists on athletic teams, in extracurricular activities, and just with the students we have here. I'm thrilled to watch the new students we get every year integrate with the lifers that we have so well.
Right. So you graduate from the academy, you go on to college, you do very well in college, and you become an engineer. Can you tell us a little bit? I was not involved in your return to the academy, but I love interviewing and hiring people from other professions who have a calling to teach. So just talk a little bit about your life after college and grad school when you became a working engineer?
So I took a job with Ford Motor Company right out of school, moved to Ann Arbor, and worked in Dearborn, and that was great. I enjoyed what I did for a time. I learned a lot, which was really good. And it was a fantastic time to be working for Ford because they owned Jaguar, Land Rover, Aston Martin, Volvo cars, and had a controlling interest in Mazda. And I got to work on all of those platforms except for the Aston Martins, and learned a bunch of stuff, which was fantastic. Eventually, Jennifer and I decided that Michigan was a little cold and cloudy.
Right.
And so we moved back here. And I hooked up with a small engineering and manufacturing services company called MSI, Mechatronic Solutions Incorporated. Not to be confused with the MSI, the helicopter company.
Okay.
And the owner of that company had kids who also graduated from the academy.
Shocker.
The Sonnenbergs. Anyway, so I hooked up with a small engineering and manufacturing services company as the VP of engineering. So I had a team of electrical, mechanical, and software engineers who worked for me. We wound up buying that company. I wound up buying that company with a couple other folks and grew it and ended up selling it and worked for the acquirer for a couple of years and decided at that point that part of my career just wasn't quite working out. And I got one of the best pieces of advice I've ever gotten in my life. I went out to lunch with the founder of the company that we bought. And he suggested to me, hey, Bob, you should take a step back and figure out what you really want to do. I assumed that my next step would be my next engineering step, right? It's natural. I had spent my entire career there.
How old are you about at this point?
This is 20 years into my career, so 40-ish.
And you're a dad at this point, right?
Yep.
So, yeah, and you're working a million hours and not seeing, because we've talked about this, not seeing your girls the way that you had wanted to be present for them in that way.
Absolutely, yeah, and that was certainly a part of it. And while I was at MSI in particular, I had the opportunity to help a lot of engineers and help them with projects, with their careers, with their lives outside of the engineering world. I really enjoyed that. I was also a coach, a swim coach and a soccer coach. I coached both of my girls in soccer, AYSO. And so I knew working with children was fun. So I'd gotten this great piece of advice. Hey, take a step back, figure out what you really want to do. And like I said, I thought engineering was my career. That was it. And I kind of started piecing together the things that I had really enjoyed in all the bits and pieces of the things I had done in my career. And one of the things I had done was taught a lot of workshops and seminars. I really enjoyed that. And I enjoyed teaching in different ways and helping people learn in different ways, not just with a PowerPoint speaking up, in front of the audience. So I put all of that together and figured, well, maybe teaching is something I might want to do. And so I connected with the Think Summer program, and that's where I started teaching pre-algebra to middle schoolers who have a lot of energy.
Right. If you could do that, you actually could probably teach anything.
And
right.
I was exhausted at the end of those days, but I loved it.
Right.
And turns out I was pretty good at it.
Right.
Wound up interviewing for a part-time math position here. And I thought that was perfect because it allowed me to get my foot in the door with teaching. I didn't have a lot of teaching experience.
Right.
So I thought part-time, this is great.
Right.
Get my foot in the door. And then 2 weeks before the school year started, Kevin Fowler, who at the time was the chair of the science department, called me up and said, hey, Bob, would you be interested in adding 2 sections of AP Physics 1 to your 2 sections of math? I said, Kevin, it's 2 weeks before the school year starts. I would be insane if I said yes.
Right.
So I said yes. Right. And there I was, 0 to full-time in the summer.
And so what about teaching full-time surprised you?
It is a lot of work, and I think what surprised me most is how much I enjoyed teaching not just the material, but, for example, in math, how to be confident. Because I had so many students coming in saying, "Oh, I'm not good at math. I
Right.
don't," and I don't want to hear that. I want to hear, this is a struggle for me now, and I want to get better. And so I didn't realize how much of student success is related to non-content kinds of things. So it's all the stuff that goes on outside the classroom, in the hallways, connecting with students on the pool deck,
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that teaching was so broad.
And how was it being a parent at the academy?
I've loved it, and
Yeah.
I miss my daughters not being here.
I'm-
Absolutely. Especially Kara, my younger daughter, who would pretty much visit my office every day, either just to chat, to chill on the couch, to get some work done. I actually had a long conversation with Tessa, my older daughter, when I was taking the Dean of Students role.
Right.
Because I wanted to make sure that she was comfortable with
Yeah.
that. And so I asked her, Tessa, is this something that you're going to be comfortable with? Because I don't want to put you in a difficult situation. She said, "Oh no, Dad, it's totally fine."
Right.
And it was fantastic to see them engaging with their teachers, engaging with the community, and having the inside knowledge of what's going on in their
Yeah.
classrooms, and really understanding their education here.
Yeah. You know, we have any given year in between 90 and 96 of our students are children of employees, many of them children of teachers. And while that can be challenging at times, I do feel as a community we navigate it pretty well. And I love, love, love watching the relationships between the parents and their children, the gentleness, walking up the paths, high five, coming by the office. It's really watching them cheer their kids on at a game, or playing the band, or whatever it might be. It's just, you just get a different view of everything. I know how close you are with your kids, so and it was always sweet to see from my perspective.
And I got a different view of my niece and nephew as well, because I actually had the opportunity to teach both of them at different times.
Right.
So yeah.
So you have the ability to teach lots of things. I bet, I would argue, including all of the humanities, but any level of math, any level of physics, and then created an engineering course. What was that like, taking a course that was your profession and then making it accessible to 17 and 18-year-olds, where we don't really have a prereq for that course for the most part? What was that experience like for you?
It was, again, first and foremost, a lot of work, but a lot of fun putting it together. The course, our Advanced Principles of Engineering, is based on Stanford's ME 101 Design Thinking program, and is meant to introduce students to the engineering design process. Fundamentally, it's a class about problem solving. And that is applicable not just in engineering, of course, but in many other disciplines. And so what I wanted the students to be able to take away from that course is, first off, what is engineering really like in the real world? Because I was there. I experienced it for 20 years, and I want them to understand that what they can learn here really does have application in the beyond education, beyond the world of academia. and I want them to get a good sense of what teamwork is all about. They get that in a lot of their classes. This is a project-based class. Their success depends on their teams.
Yep.
And I want them to understand that creativity is something that can be learned and practiced and improved. A lot of people have a relatively closed mindset about that. I am creative or I'm not.
Right.
And I don't believe that. I believe everyone is creative in their own ways, and it can and they can improve that. And I want them to have fun doing it. I want them to learn a whole bunch of stuff and not even necessarily realize that they're learning a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah. Well, I think the class is fabulous, and have had the privilege of observing the class, and then also the projects. And at its core, it is problem solving. You just put it together, and whether it's like building a bridge or making a cart or whatever they're designing, and what an iterative process that is, and how all ideas need, if you're really going to engage, like everything goes up on the board. It can't just be refuting everything as soon as it comes out. That's part of sometimes I struggle with that here when I'll come up with an idea and the first thing people tell me is why it won't work. I'm like, well, I understand that may be true eventually, but we haven't even tried. So I think the kids being exposed to that is, I shouldn't say this, but I will, that if I were to require a type of course, that would be the type of course I would require. But I'm so thrilled that we offer it, and by people who are engineers. Couldn't be any better. So are there any specific memories of like stuff that has been pranks or silly things that have happened on campus, either as a dean of students, as a student yourself, as a teacher, as a dad, that have happened here that we can actually share?
Well, our senior prank was to put the school up for sale. So we actually, shall we say, acquired a number of for sale signs. But we also took out an ad in the paper and described the academy in a lot of detail and put the main line phone number in that ad and said, for sale. And so we got a lot of phone calls about that.
What's so funny is I just spoke with Smitty and Andy, and Smitty spoke about that. Now, his perspective is a little bit different.
I imagine it is.
And it was really great that serendipitous that it worked out that way. It's great. All right, so we're going to do a little part of our show called Lightning Round. I'm going to give you a pair. You tell me which one is your favorite or what best describes you. Red or green?
Green.
Early bird or night owl?
Early bird. What
time do you get up?
4 a.m.
And what do you do? Are you working out or working?
I work out in the morning.
Are you prefer lectures or labs?
Labs.
What's your favorite item in the dining hall?
Salads.
And what's your favorite spot on campus?
My favorite, there are a number of favorite spots, and I want to actually share this as well. So
please.
I have a bucket of candy in my office,
Yes.
and most of the kids know that. But in order to get candy, you have to answer the question of the day. And I try to make the students think, and one of the question of the day actually just last week was, what is your favorite place on campus? Mm-hmm. And, of course, I have answers to all of these questions. I have to, right? Because the kids will often ask me, well, what about you? And I got a lot of answers to that. But to be honest, my favorite place on campus is my office, because I get to see a whole bunch of kids either outside walking by or they'll stop in and say hello. Mm-hmm. And we have absolutely phenomenal chats.
I want to thank you, Bob, for spending some time with me and talking about your memories of the Academy as a student and then back as a teacher and, of course, as a father. And we're just really lucky that you're here. And, I'm very, very honored to call you a colleague. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
I want to thank Don Smith and Andy Watson for helping me kick off the first podcast episode of our 70th anniversary year, as well as our guest, Bob Anderson. I'm very fortunate to be part of a team that cares so deeply about education and Albuquerque Academy. Go Chargers! Thanks for listening to What I Learned in School to learn a little bit about Albuquerque Academy. Send us your comments and questions to headofschool@aa.edu. You can listen to all of our episodes on our website at aa.edu and wherever you get your podcasts.